Hi everyone! Today the topic of discussion is differentiated instruction. I know, it can be intimidating and even the words just start to make your brain hurt. But I'm going to give you some tips that will help you to implement differentiated instruction every day in your classroom without a lot of extra prep work. Differentiated instruction allows for all of the students in your class to learn at the level that they're at. So you're not forcing your students who are struggling to come all the way up here, and you're not stopping your students who may be a bit more advanced from continuing to grow. You're meeting everybody where they're at and then pushing them as they need to go up. So an easy way to do this, and what I always start with, is a pre-assessment. When you're starting a new unit, give a simple 3 or 4 questions to gauge where students are at. Sometimes your students will already know the material and they don't need to hear you give this entire lesson and do all of these basic activities. They're ready to move forward. Or sometimes you'll see that your students are lacking a foundational basis and they may need some extra practice at home so that they can even get to where you're teaching. This pre-assessment will help you to group the students in small groups so that you can pull them to the back table and work with them one-on-one or in groups of 3 or 4 to ensure that everybody is getting what they need out of the lesson that you're teaching. Which leads me to my next thing, which is exit tickets. After you've taught a lesson, you want to give the students, it can even be just one question for them to answer before you move on to the next subject or before they leave for the day. Once they've left, check their answers. This is how you're going to pull your small groups for the next day. Long gone are the days of the tiger group, the crab group, and you always meet with those same students for the entire year. No. Instead, use these daily assessments or every other day, however your schedule allows, to create your group for the following day. Does this take an extra minute each day? Yes, but your groups are all the more meaningful. Okay, look at the exit ticket answers. You can have them posted on a wall, they can leave it on their desk, whatever it is. Group your students who understood perfectly. They got the answer correct, they showed their work, they're good to go. They may be able to work independently tomorrow. Now you're gonna have your group who struggled, or your group who you're looking at their work and they were doing it right until they got to one certain step. They need some refreshers the next day. That's how you're gonna pull your groups. And in this way, you're never making students feel as though they're in the low group, or they're in the middle group, or they're in the high group, because groups are constantly changing. The student who is really doing well with multiplication may really struggle with division and vice versa. So this really helps with classroom community too, and to level off the playing field in your classroom. The next thing I'm going to suggest is task cards. While your students are working with you, what are the other kids doing? This is one of the biggest struggles with small groups, is we need our students to be accountable when they're not right in front of us. Task cards help with this. Now, in a previous video with small groups, I told you to have a weekly checklist for students to complete throughout the week. Task cards can be one of the main things that they need to complete. And you can have these task cards scaffolded. Okay, they can start at one level, and as the student does well on that, they can progress to the next level of that same kind of questioning. You can color code these cards. You can simply have them level 1, 2, and 3 so students work hard to reach that mastery level. It's okay to challenge them. It's okay for them to know that they are getting better as they move on, but that they do have to start at the bottom. It's good for them to know that they have to work hard in order to progress. You can have an answer sheet for students to be able to check their work and build that trust with them that they will check it after they've answered it. That's just something that you have to do as a teacher through monitoring, or if you feel like your class struggles with that, have them partner with a buddy and the buddy can check their answers with the answer sheet provided. They can even come to your small group and you can quickly check the answer for them, but I know a lot of us don't like to be interrupted during small group time, but a quick check doesn't take too long if you're having issues with that accountability. The next thing that I'm going to suggest you use is anchor charts and graphic organizers. We all love to make a nice anchor chart, but are you having your students complete it with you? Are they then copying it into a notebook or some kind of binder where they can refer back to it later? Are they using graphic organizers to organize their ideas in a way that is visually appealing? Remember, all students learn in different ways. Using graphic organizers with students who lack the ability to stay engaged for long periods of time is really helpful because they feel as though they're making some kind of art with the information that you're sharing with them. It's a tool for the information to stick and for students to be interested in actually jotting it down. It's like a fun way to take notes. The next thing I'm going to suggest is a rating system in your class. Now, let me explain this. Students need to take accountability for their learning. They need to take ownership of what they know and be willing to admit when they're struggling. This is something I start from the very beginning and let students know that Like I said earlier, sometimes they're gonna be good at things, sometimes they're gonna struggle, and that's totally okay because even Miss Machado struggles sometimes too. So you're going to explain to them however you wanna set up your system, but I use simple numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 is, Miss Machado, I don't get this at all, I need a complete refresher. Number 2 is, I'm starting to get this, but I'm still struggling with the complexity of it, or I'm still struggling with how to put it all together. Number 3 is, I can do this on my own, I got this. Number 4 is, I am so confident in this that I can exceed your expectations and possibly teach somebody else. Anytime I want to get a quick assessment of my students, I'll ask them, all right, let's rate ourselves. And my students will hold up their number. There's no shame, there's no looking around at what so-and-so raised a 4 or a 3. You need to build that trust with your students. It's a family and you don't make fun of anybody. You're not judging anybody because tomorrow you might be the one who is struggling a bit. So then I will quickly jot down whoever gave me a 1 or a 2, and I know those students are not only not understanding, but they are not understanding to a level where they feel confident enough to tell the entire class, I need some help. Teaching your students to be honest with themselves really helps in order for you to be able to differentiate the instruction and to make their learning the best it can possibly be. Taking the time to get to know your students is one of the simplest ways to differentiate your instruction. Once you've made those connections with them, you're able to see how they learn best, and you're able to then put it into action. Differentiation doesn't mean a bunch of different worksheets. Differentiation means working with your students on what is best for them and for you as a teacher in order to see them move forward. It's a simple small group. It's a simple one-on-one discussion with them that may look a little bit different than the small group that you did prior to them arriving at your table. Little tweaks that help your students progress further than any worksheet could ever take them. I hope these tips are helpful and something that you can use in your classroom to make instruction more meaningful and just to have an easier time with differentiation. Don't forget to check out reallygoodstuff.com/summerofsolutions. There you'll find tips from other educators that are easy to implement and very meaningful. I also hope that you'll follow along with me on Instagram at GiveThatGirlASnack, where I'm always sharing educational tips. Until next time, bye.